talk a little hockey with my man Steve Coates. We'll go out on the Boardwalk Honda hotline now. Is this our first summertime conversation about the hockey team, Coates? I can't remember if we've talked before because we talk a lot off the air, but I don't know if we've had you on the air.
You know what? I don't know. I don't think we've been on since the end of the season.
Well, I'm glad we're finally changing that because I think there's finally stuff to talk about.
Pete, it's always an honor.
You lie so well. So, Coatesy, let's talk a little.
Lie, Pete,
I know.
I don't lie.
Talk about JVR, if you will, and let's start there because, as this town and this area was all captivated with whether the Sixers will get LeBron James or not, your pal Ron Hextall, bang, goes out and gets one of the big names in free agency. Were you, tell the truth now that it's happened, were you surprised by it? Did you have an inkling that he was going to go that way?
Well, I really had no inkling. I mean, you can do all the prognostications of what's going to happen in free agency and probably get about 10% right. But when you take a look at what had happened with coming to the Philadelphia Flyers and James Van Riemsdyk is the fact that Van Riemsdyk is what the Flyers have needed for a couple of years, and that's a big left winger that can score, and he's got great hands. Is he a tough player? No, he's not that. The Flyers already knew that years ago, but he's a player that can add a heck of a lot of firepower to a team that's needed that big left winger, and so the Flyers have that now, and they can put together two really solid lines now as far as goal scoring is concerned.
Do you think that was part of the reason that because I was of the opinion that he never should have left in the first place, but do you think that was why he left in the first place, and that now it's his goal scoring that's bringing him back, not the physicality?
Well, we could look in the past and try to make rhyme or reason of what happened. Luke Schenn was a player at that time. There was a pretty good, a real good defensive, hard-hitting defenseman at the time. It didn't work out. Trades don't work out. Van Riemsdyk went on and had a heck of a time with the Toronto Maple Leafs, but those times are over. You can't fix what's already done. Now you got an opportunity to take advantage of now with being a veteran.
Yeah, and you have an opportunity to look forward to, Steve Coates. So, Couturier, how do you see the lines breaking down then? If it's Van Riemsdyk on the left, maybe between Patrick and Voracek, or do you see Van Riemsdyk as a top guy, and where do you see his power play opportunities coming?
I'm going to go back to what I said about trying to pick out what happens in free agency. I mean, there's going to be so many different combinations and permutations of lines. I mean, who knows? I mean, last year, who would have thought that the season would have found Claude Giroux playing the left wing, and Sean Couturier with a great opportunity to become one of the premier centers in the National Hockey League, both offensively and defensively. It worked out great. But going into the season or going into the training camp, he'll definitely be a left winger on the top two lines. But is that going to be the way it is on a day-to-day basis? No. So what you do is you hope that that Van Riemsdyk comes in and plays consistently on the left side with whoever he plays with and produces the goals that are needed for this hockey club, especially at important times.
Coach, this is Ryan here. How you doing?
Good, Ryan. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's a pleasure that we get to talk here for a few minutes. So we're talking Philadelphia Flyers. Obviously, I have to get real creative here, and I have to ask you about goaltending. So I want your thoughts on how do you see the goaltending position playing out this year? Who's the guy and who's competing for backup and all that good stuff?
If I had to throw darts right now and say, well, I shouldn't say it quite like that, but it'd be Brian Elliott as the number one. After that, I don't know. I don't know. There's so many different people that are available, and Stolarz is back healthy again. I liked Alex Lyon. Carter Hart is the guy that everybody's looking to be the future of this hockey club. He was Mr. Everything in goaltending this year in Canada. Mr. Everything. But if you take a look at goaltending, and I don't care how far you go back, there's not but one goaltender that's ever really, really jumped into the National Hockey League, two maybe, that have jumped into the National Hockey League and been successful without going to the American Hockey League. So take that into consideration with the way that Ron Hextall has managed this team, managed his players. He is not one that likes bringing in young kids into that immediate position of playing in the National Hockey League, no matter how good you have. Now, is he subject to change when Carter Hart comes into training camp and is absolutely scary good? Maybe, but I just can't see it happening. So who the backup goaltender is, I really don't know.
Steve Coates with us on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. And Coates, yeah, Lyon did sign the contract, the 2-year contract to avoid salary arbitration, so he's certainly in the mix. And to your point, Coates, on the young players, I know that when I think I brought up, it wasn't Carter Hart, I brought up Morgan Frost when we had Ron Hextall on the show, and he said, it's funny to me how everybody praises all these young players, but they never see him play. And I said, well, YouTube, Hexy, YouTube. And he said, well, that's just the highlights, as in you don't see the lowlights.
Hexy's a very honest person, matter of fact, a realist, and understands that every year we go to training camp and these kids come out of training, out of junior, they got big numbers. And then all of a sudden they just kind of peel off a little bit. And they're playing against men now. This is the National Hockey League, the best in the world. So you can't expect more than maybe waiting a couple of years to get a Morgan Frost. Big numbers, yeah, with the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. Look at last year, Nolan Patrick. Everybody was worried, me being one, that this kid came in and all of a sudden thrown into the lineup as a number 2 pick in the draft, and which is very unlike Mr. Hextall, but he was here and he got off to a pretty good start, and then all of a sudden he got his bell rung and then he went south. And everybody is wondering, whoa, what happened to this kid? Whoa, what happened? This is going to be a worrisome situation. But all of a sudden, like the door got opened somewhere along the line in February, and this kid was a force. And I think that when you take a look at that situation, it was a growth. Did it come at a time where nobody expected it? Yeah. But you could go back over time and pick all these different players who have been at any level in the National Hockey League to find out that everybody has a different rate of maturation, both mentally and physically. And everybody is going to come on at a different time. So you got to go to training camp. You got to see how they react. You got to see how they're going to do against bigger players, stronger players, faster players. All those different things come into play, and that happens at training camp. But because of social media, the press, TV, radio, we have to sit and try to figure out what's going to happen when things aren't like baseball. Baseball's got the All-Star game, so we got nothing to talk about today. Let's talk hockey.
Let's do it.
Sir, I have no idea what you're talking about. That wasn't our producing strategy at all.
So, Coach, PT brought up Ron Hextall a little bit. Before the draft, he was stressing that they need to add a right-handed shot to the blue line. They go out and do that with Christian Folan, bringing him over on a 1-year deal from the Kings. Talk about that signing. What does he add to the blue line? And maybe touch on just the defensive group as a whole.
Well, first of all, finding good right-handed defensemen is a real premium. When you think about the last real good one the Flyers had was Eric Desjardins. And it's hard. When you take a look at the guys at this hockey club that played right side as left-hand shots, it's hard. You've got your back to the play all the time. You got to look over your shoulder to get the puck out of the zone. It's a real hard thing to do. Got to turn on your backhand in the offensive zone to hold that puck in. So when you take a look at having a guy that's facing the play all the time and is a veteran of the Los Angeles Kings, that could be a real plus. It's a position that is needed. Where he's going to play, let's go back again. Who knows? It's a long season. So if you have 7 solid defensemen, then everybody's going to get to play because of injuries being a very prevalent thing in the league right now. So having him as a veteran, and Ron Hextall had him in L.A., he must have confidence in him, and he'll bring a lot to the table.
Steve Coates with us, the Flyers radio analyst. Coates, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about Ray Emery. That was sad news that came out yesterday about Razor, and immediately when I thought about Ray Emery and what he brought to the Flyers, I remembered that fight, that epic fight that he had with, what was that, Braden Holtby, I believe? And where were you when that fight was happening?
Well, I was doing the game, and I'll tell you what, that was one of the best things that ever happened for that hockey team at that time, because it was a team that needed something, and that's one thing Ray Emery had to do. He had a feel, or he knew how to do it. Is he had a feel for, hey, this is it. We got to go after it. And as a goaltender, he's probably one of the best fighters you've ever seen. He was a very big time. He was a real strong competitor. He went to the Ottawa Senators Stanley Cup final, and he had a tough time when he came here, and he had that terrible injury.
Yeah.
And I never thought he was going to play again. I'll never forget him getting. He was on a plane back to Toronto with us, and his leg was in a cast. I mean, up into his hip, obviously, and because of that, what was the name of the football player? Bo Jackson.
That's correct.
That had that, and nobody said he was going to be able to play again. And Ray came back, won a Stanley Cup with the Chicago Blackhawks, came back and played really well for us. Had that big fight. He was I'll tell you what, he was a more mature player when he came back the second time with us. I mean, he produced a heck of a lot for us, and he was a big part of our hockey club. He was a great guy, and it's a sad day when guys like that lose their life at such a young age, at 35.
Yeah, no doubt, gone too soon. And I just remember, too, that I also thought, if I'm not mistaken, weren't you caught between, like, upstairs and downstairs or something, or wasn't there a funny aspect of that Emery fight, or was that a different fight I'm thinking about from your?
That was a big. No, I was in the staircase of the Wells Fargo Center going down to do post game when the big brawl with Ottawa happened.
I love that stuff. Steve Coates with us. Hey, by the way, I went through and I looked very carefully here on the official website of the Michigan Tech Huskies. There are, let's see, we've got a Collins, a Capo, a Kodui, a Christensen, Cheese Bro. There's another name getting added to this Hall of Fame list out there?
Oh, Pete, yes. I'm very humbled to tell you, and very excited that I've been selected to be inducted into the Michigan Tech University Sports Hall of Fame. And I'm going up there. Thanks, Josh. That was really, and I'm humbled by it, but excited to go back up there. I mean, Michigan Tech University has always been a very good hockey school, and a unique place way up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, where I spent 4 of the best years of my life, and I'm going back there in October to be inducted, and I'm just very excited about it.
Well deserved, Coates. See, I did my research, man. I was looking up on the map here, and I saw the ski area that's right across. Is that a river, or what is that, a lake? I mean, what's that body of water right there?
That is the Portage. It's actually a lake, but it's a river. Like it was through the city. There's a Portage Lake right there, and then that body of water goes all the way up to Lake Superior.
Well, I did also notice, I was looking on the map. I mean, if I have one critique when you go up there, can you get them to put the ice rink's name more prominently on the campus maps, please? I mean, if there's only one division sport, and for God's sakes, of course, it's hockey, which I think is fantastic. I had a hard time finding the hockey rink on the campus map. Now, maybe that's user error. I'm not sure, sir.
It might have been user error with your Genie box. That's the John McGinnis Arena, which is named after the coach that I played for, and he is a Hall of Fame coach, and deservingly so. That building, which is a great building, is named after him, and it's up on top of the hill. You can go take a look at it again, go back, and I'll give you the opportunity to redeem yourself for poor coverage and understanding where the arena is. Because
it's a terrible map. I'm telling you, the map sucks. I found it when I put McGinnis Boulevard in, or 600 McGinnis Drive, but of every official map through the Michigan Tech website, it does not say McGinnis Ice Arena or McGinnis anything. I'm telling you, it's the web designer. That's who I'm throwing under the bus.
Now, did you happen to, in your investigation of Michigan Tech University, find when I played there was a population of 4,300 students, of which 4,000 were men and 300 were girls.
That's a perfect balance.
It was perfect. Yeah, you used to have to call in October for a date in February.
Oh, God, I just love it, pal. It's the Upper Peninsula. I had a buddy that started his TV career in the UP, and I mean, I know don't they talk about the winters there, and if you can survive there, you can survive anywhere, right?
Oh, 275 inches of snow a winter.
Take that, Buffalo, and see how you feel about it.
Yeah, Buffalo's a minor leaguer compared to Michigan Tech.
Well, now Michigan Tech's got a Hall of Famer. His name is Stephen J. Coates. He's been with us here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline, and we're pleased to have you to talk a little Flyers hockey, Coates. I'll catch up with you soon, pal. Thank you so much.
All right, Peter, Ryan, thank you very much.